In this week's Jaunts with John T, we visit the Portland Art Museum, where we experience the Monet's Floating Worlds at Giverny exhibit, as well as psychedelic rock posters and fashion of the 1960s. Howdy, 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 and welcome to Jaunts with John T. I am John T, and this week we are at the Portland Art Museum in Portland, Oregon. I mean, it is a gray, drizzly, rainy day, so what would be a better thing to do than go to an art museum? So why don't you come on this jaunt with us? We are here at the Portland Art Museum to see two different exhibits. I should say the Portland Art Museum is undergoing currently a huge restoration, renovation, I should say. And as a result, honestly, much of it, if not most of it, is closed. Most of the galleries are closed. Most of the exhibit halls are closed. However, there are two large exhibits, which are the two that we came to see today. One of the exhibits is called Psychedelic, which is the rock psychedelic poster art from the 60s, and it is only running until the end of the month, until the end of March. So if you are in Portland, visiting Portland, live in Portland, and you want to see that exhibit, and I do suggest that you do come and see it, you want to come and see it before the end of March. The other exhibit just opened. It opened a few weeks ago, and that is an exhibit of Monet and his Waterlilies painting, which is one of his most famous paintings and is pretty much one of the most famous paintings that is here at the museum. Has just undergone a major restoration where they removed some varnish that had basically ruined the painting and made its colors incorrect and all that sort of thing. So they finally removed the varnish. The varnishing was done in 1959, and they have since removed the varnish and they brought it back to its true glory, and so they exhibited the painting and took that as an opportunity to create an exhibit around the influence of Japanese art, specifically Japanese wood block prints on the French expressionists of the mid to late 1800s. That is going to be very interesting to take a look at. quite fascinating to look at this exhibit of the Monet painting of the Waterlilies and the influence that Japanese artists had on the French Expressionists in the mid to late 1800s. According to the exhibit, Japanese art was relatively unknown in France before 1854, and then once it was introduced to some of the French artists, especially the French Expressionist artists like Monet, it had a very huge influence on their art, and you can really see it in some of the works of people like Marie Cassatt and Toulouse-Lautrec. And the interesting thing is that these are all artists, frankly, that I've been pretty familiar with for years. I never noticed this influence of Japanese art on the works of these French Expressionists. But now when you go to the exhibit and you see them together, you can really, really see the influence. It's quite fascinating. And of course, the influence is particularly true for Monet, in particular the water lilies, in terms of things like it doesn't really have a vanishing point, it doesn't have a horizon. It's things like that, a very non-European approach to art, and you could really see that influence in those works. It was very interesting and very fascinating. I definitely would encourage, if you are visiting Portland or live in the Portland area, you should definitely come and see this exhibit while it's still here. I love how the top billed actor in this poster is Howling Wolf. And the second builder is Big Brother and the Holding Company, which I've never heard of Howling Wolf, but I know who Big Brother and the Holding Company were. So these are all the specific offsets for the lithograph that eventually becomes this. It's pretty cool. Remember when I was a kid, my dad did a lot of screen prints, which is a similar process to lithography. But he would do that work. He would have multiple layers and different colors for different layers. So it's interesting to see it for a pretty well-known 60s block poster. interesting exhibit on psychedelic art, rock posters from the 60s. It also had some fashion, which was really cool to see. It was particularly interesting because it held up a pretty unflinching eye to how some of this art was fairly inappropriate, or at least in, you know, kind of through a modern lens, it can certainly feel inappropriate. You had, you know, cultural appropriation of Native American culture. You had objectification of women. You had appropriation of different art styles and art from different periods that, you know, were appropriated into the psychedelic movement, whether it was Art Nouveau or whether it's some of the old Western art or things like that. It's a really interesting exhibit, interesting to see a lot of this work in historical context. So again, if you're in Portland or if you live in Portland, you should check out the psychedelic exhibit here at the Portland Art Museum. Okay, well, that is going to do it for today's edition of Jaunts with John T. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please be sure to like, or hit the like button, I should say. You can just like it too, but if you hit the like button, that's even better. We really enjoyed coming to the Portland Art Museum. As I've already said a couple of times in this video, if you are in Portland or live in Portland, you should definitely come to the Portland Art Museum, and you should definitely come to check out the exhibit on French Expressionists and Monet's Waterlilies painting. It's quite fascinating, beautiful art, beautiful Japanese art, beautiful French art, quite lovely, and I highly recommend it. And if you can get here before the end of the month, before the end of March, you should also really check out the psychedelic posters. It was really interesting to see all these psychedelic posters because I remember those from when I was a kid. A very little kid, but a kid nonetheless. Well, that's going to do it for this week. Here at Jaunts with John T, we go on jaunts around the world, around the country, around the state, around the city, and sometimes just around the house. So if that sounds like fun, please be sure to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, because that way you'll be notified of future videos. That's going to do it. I am John T, and until I can figure out a better sign off, thanks for watching.